Hey Casey, it's Dr. Scott. I have some feedback for you on your Essay 2 draft. Just as a reminder, the criteria for this assignment are your thesis statement, your ability to write a thesis statement that's focused, that's interesting, that's debatable. The second criteria is your use of details to support that thesis statement, using a couple quotes from either the pseudo-historical or the documentary that we took a look at. The third criteria is your ability to organize your ideas and use transitions. And organization means that you are grouping similar ideas together, but it also means that you are transitioning between ideas and that you're placing ideas in a purposeful way. Like there's a reason why you're beginning with one paragraph and then going to another paragraph. The final criteria is your ability to integrate sources into your paper. So those are the four: thesis statement, details, organization, and integrating sources, integrating quotes. So I have feedback here over to the right. I have some comments that just to remind me to talk to you about certain issues, and I'll just kind of go through and explain my feedback. And at the end, I have a kind of like a to-do list to think about as you move forward and as you revise this essay. Okay, so I think that the unity idea that you mentioned in the thesis statement, I think that that's pretty interesting, and it's an idea that I think you can kind of build an argument around. The issue that I kind of got hung up on, and I didn't see how it was connected to unity, was the restructuring idea. I think they can be related to each other, but it felt like you had two papers. One was about unity, the other one was about restructuring, and I wasn't sure how the two were related to each other. If you can connect them, I think it works, but there's a paragraph about the improvement of architecture and technology, and I think it actually does more than that. It's down here. Buildings, fashion, transportation, our ancestors had. This paragraph, for me, was kind of the weak link, and it didn't seem to have nearly as much of a connection to kind of a cohesive argument, a cohesive thesis statement, as some of your other paragraphs. So for me, the thesis statement needs some clarity. And there might be ideas that you'll need to cut to make room for ideas that work more effectively. I think there's also a number of places in the essay where I wanted more description, and I wanted more discussion of your details. So here you have people are having to abandon their homes and move further inland to keep from being taken in by the water. Dreary tone, like I buy that. Use of black and gray colors. I think there's even more detail that you could include there. Like there's kind of like a ominous, dark cloud, or just downpour. It kind of seems like to us it's moving ever closer. I think there's more description that you can do in there. More importantly, though, I think explaining how those details help support your paragraph's overall point, I think that needs to happen a bit more. What do these details have to say about that issue of unity that you mentioned? You hint at it in places, and I think there needs to be more discussion of that. Like in this mural, it's obvious that like these bad times that brought this community together, these like really scary times that they're taking a look at, it's brought this community. They have to work together to survive. Like that unity idea, it's about survival, and we're seeing that here. You can even take a look at some of the details. Like I think there's one woman who's carrying a picture frame and carrying supplies up from a rowboat. They are united in trying to survive out this storm. So I think there's definitely connections to be made there. I think it needs a bit more detail and a bit more explanation to pull them together to help support your argument. Here I noted this as another place where you could use more detail. And it's not just like adding more detail and then you're done, but it's adding detail and then explaining how that detail helps with that idea of unity. And if you're going with that rebuilding, restructuring idea, that's fine. For me, I'm a little lost in how the two are going to relate to each other, but I think you can pull that off as long as you explain it. And right now there's not much explanation. It's kind of connecting the details to the paper's overall argument. As I mentioned, I had a tough time with this paragraph. It kind of felt like you were just kind of describing things to me, and I had a really difficult time understanding how they might be related to an overall argument. Here, I think there's still more explanation needed to get this paragraph paragraph more aligned with your thesis statement. But here in this paragraph, I had a tougher time trying to imagine how you might do that. Now, you might be able to, Kasey, like I've enjoyed your writing, and I think that you're able to take really interesting takes on things that we've looked at. But I think this one for me is a bit of a tougher sell. I think you can pull that off, but it's going to take some overhauling to make sure that it gets aligned with the paper's overall argument. I'm a stickler for the word things, especially for an essay where I'm asking you to use description and precise language to support your argument. The word things, there's always a better alternative, and I think anytime you're using that word, there's a more precise word that you could use to be a substitute. It's fine for conversational speaking, but in your writing, I think there's always a better substitute. I get what you're saying about like your favorite color. For me, it just kind of slowed down the part, the overall point of the paragraph. I don't think word requirement is going to be an issue for you. It didn't feel like you were purposely trying to pad it, but it just kind of separated the amount of time it took for me to kind of start this paragraph and get to the point. So maybe consider revising that. If you don't, that's not that big a deal. There's bigger fish to fry there. I think I enjoyed your use of detail in here. I think it's solid, your discussion of colors. I thought that this was the strongest paragraph in the paper. There's still places where, and this is one, and there's others in the paragraph, where it felt like those details still need to be discussed in the context of unity. Like, what does this have to say about unity to have these colors? What are the use of colors here? How is that helping us think about unity? You connect it a little bit down here, and I want to see more of that connection throughout the paragraph. And so up here, I was a bit more sold on the connection to unity. I mean, you've got this here, which is kind of nice. I'd like to see a little bit more of it after each of your examples. When we get to the Chillicothe mural, like the unity idea is kind of it's kind of lost on me a bit. It seems more about the flooding of Alexandria, and unity doesn't seem to be that big of an issue. At least as how you've written it. It doesn't seem to be as big an issue with the Chillicothe Street, or I think you're calling it the Big City mural. But again, I think it is the paragraph that has the most detail, the most persuasive detail. It's just getting those details explained in context of your thesis statement. That needs to happen in the revision. So I have a little to-do list down here for you. I do think there's some focus on the thesis statement needed. Are you going to be writing about restructuring and unity? How are the two connected? Can you explain that connection? If you can, that's great. I'm interested to see that. If you just decide to go straight to the unity idea, I think that's fine. Either way is up to you. It's up to you. The building and the fashion claim it's the weak link at this point. I'm not sure how it might relate to unity. Again, it may, but it'll take you making that explanation and that connection. Need more detail in key places. I've noted a few. Need to connect those details to the paper's overall point or the paragraph's overall point. I think that is the bigger issue with this right now. Using more specific language, things, cutting that out of your writing. I think your writing is at a level where you can work on some of those smaller issues. And then having a rationale for organization, which I didn't talk about in the video so far. So making sure that there's a reason why you're beginning with a paragraph about color, or beginning a paragraph with the characters. I forget the other criteria you mentioned. So why do you have the color paragraph in the place that it's in? Making that logic of how you've arranged ideas much more transparent to your reader. That's my feedback. There's a lot there, so don't be shy about asking me some questions, asking me to clarify some things. I've thrown a lot at you. But I'm really looking forward to seeing where this essay goes. I think you picked a couple interesting murals to write about, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the revision. That's it for now. I'll talk to you soon.